Decide to build your character through good actions. The challenges that arise will reveal your strengths. Stay firm, and one day you will build something lasting, worthy of your potential. Epictetus, in Stoicism, teaches that actions are more valuable than words, reflecting the importance of how we act in life to face adversities and events, remaining steadfast. Stoics value each action, which is why in this video we will explore the teachings of an eminent philosopher named Epictetus. The life of Epictetus. Epictetus was one of the three great Stoic philosophers, whose wisdom we still refer to today, along with Cicero and Emperor Marcus Aurelius. He was born as a slave around 55 AD in Hierapolis, present-day Turkey, and possibly died in 135 AD in Nicopolis. During his childhood and youth, he lived in an environment of violence and depravity, undeniable characteristics of Nero's reign. His master subjected him to torture and cruelty to the extent that it left him with irreversible injuries, including a lame leg, a burden he would carry throughout his life. Thanks to his stoic attitude, he never considered his disability as an impediment and refused to see his life as a tragedy. People don't have the power to hurt you, even if someone verbally or physically attacks you. Even if you are insulted, you can choose to view what's happening as an insult or not. If someone irritates you, the only thing that can irritate you is your own reaction. So when someone is provoking you, remember that it's only your assessment of the incident that causes that feeling. Don't let your emotions be triggered by mere appearances. Try not to react in the moment. Try to have a broader view of it. Distance yourself from the situation and compose yourself. Epictetus didn't dwell on self-pity or self-blame. Instead, he acted with discipline and constancy, remaining steadfast and facing all the events and adversities of life. Epictetus demonstrated that freedom comes from the mind and that it is within our control. As a young man, Epictetus went to Rome and served under Epictetus, who was Nero's secretary. Recognizing his potential, Epictetus sent Epictetus to learn from the Stoic master Gaius Musonius Rufus. Thanks to this Stoic education, he was able to overcome extremely challenging situations and overcome the self-victimization tendencies of his mind. When he finally ceased to be a slave and was liberated, Epictetus was forced to leave Rome and go into exile, as many philosophers of his time did. After that, he established his own school in Nicopolis, where he became an egalitarian teacher. Epictetus believed that the main goal of Stoic philosophy was to help people positively face everyday challenges and deal with the inevitable major losses and disappointments of life. That's why he was a teacher to people of all social classes, from commoners to politicians, patricians, and even emperors. Epictetus's teachings inspired Marcus Aurelius, the future emperor of Rome. One of Marcus Aurelius's tutors studied directly with Epictetus and handed the emperor the notes he took during the lessons. Marcus Aurelius, upon reading these notes, saw in Epictetus a wise man and recognized the moral doctrine of Stoicism to be followed. Although Epictetus did not leave behind written works, his disciple Flavius Arrian rescued and synthesized the most important and necessary things from his words, editing his lessons in the Enchiridion of Epictetus and the diatribes or speeches. The Enchiridion of Epictetus is an ethical and practical guide whose lessons have a single goal: to achieve true happiness, called eudaimonia. This happiness is achieved when we delve into an understanding of nature through the study of its laws, cultivate our reason to know ourselves deeply, and, above all, build a solid moral character and live a life grounded in ethics. To achieve this goal, it is necessary to act virtuously and master our vices and impulses. Now, Imagine being part of Epictetus's school, being a dedicated student. The first lesson, the central foundation of Stoicism, is the dichotomy of control. Understanding and practicing this clearly is what will guide all your thinking. Some things are under our control, while others are not. In our control are our opinions, preferences, desires, things that repel us or displease us. In other words, everything related to our actions. Beyond our control are things like the type of body we have, whether we were born rich or poor, how we are seen by others, in other words, external things that do not depend on us. Trying to control or change what we cannot only results in disappointments and frustrations. And if you believe you have complete control over things that are naturally beyond your control, or if you try to take on other people's issues as if they were your own, your pursuit will be distorted, and as a consequence, you will become irritated and lament, blaming God, life, and others. Epictetus. This authority over ourselves is difficult to practice. It requires control and self-discipline. First, we must know how to differentiate what is within our control and what is beyond our control. When we take responsibility for what depends on us and accept what is beyond our control, without lamenting or victimizing ourselves, we make moral progress. But when we waste our time criticizing or arguing with other people's actions, we sap our energy, and that only leads to disappointment and frustration. Think of a relationship in which you expect your spouse to change their rude way of interacting or to be more proactive in terms of financial gains. Although you can guide them, you do not control another person's action, even if they are close to you. The same applies to work. Imagine you are the leader of a team, and one of the members is not as committed to the project as the others, arriving late to meetings, not respecting delivery deadlines, and not providing plausible opinions. Although you can guide them, you cannot control their actions or determine their interest in the project. But in both cases, if you go against this truth and believe you can control what does not depend on you, it will not bring you positive results. Practicing the dichotomy of control is the discernment to learn to distinguish what you control or not, and the discipline to take responsibility for the actions you control, and the self-control to accept what you do not control. The second lesson is about training your self-control, something Epictetus taught to all his students. Epictetus stated that if we allow frustrations and anxieties to dominate us, we become prisoners of these disturbing emotions, and as a result, our life becomes a path of anguish and suffering. We need to train ourselves not to react impulsively and to maintain our serenity and tranquility in the face of unexpected and unfavorable events. Start with small things. If you spill a little oil or someone steals a bit of wine, then you must say to yourself, acting calmly in these daily situations is the cost of inner peace. Nothing in life is free, says Epictetus. There is a space, an interval between a stimulus and a response, and the key to a peaceful life is knowing how to use that interval. This is a simple yet powerful idea when practiced daily and progressively, as Epictetus teaches us. For example, you are stuck in traffic, late for an appointment, and the traffic light turns red just as it's your turn to go. The driver behind you can't brake in time and collides with the back of your car. No matter how unpleasant the situation is, you don't need to react with anger or aggression because of your damaged vehicle and the possibility of missing the appointment. There is an interval between the stimulus and the response, which represents your freedom to choose how you react to the situation. Traffic, the traffic light, and the driver who collided with you are external events that you cannot control. However, how you respond to this situation is entirely under your control. This also applies to deeper issues, such as the fundamental tendencies of your personality. Our behavior results from conscious decisions, not external conditions. We have the ability to align our feelings with our values, we have the initiative and responsibility necessary to shape our destiny. Think of the word responsibility, the ability to choose your response. Highly proactive people embrace responsibility and do not blame circumstances, conditions, or conditioning for their behavior. Their behavior is a product of conscious choices based on values, not of conditioning guided by emotions. You have the freedom to choose, regardless of the stimulus. Your response can arise. You have the freedom to choose, regardless of the stimulus. You have control over the response. What matters is not what happens, but how you react. The third lesson is about continuous self-assessment. Before undertaking any action, it should be rational. We must look inside ourselves and examine ourselves critically, not to diminish or boast about ourselves, but to know our abilities, resources, and weaknesses, and make a decision that is consistent. Imagine you signed up to participate in the next race in your city. Your desire is to surpass yourself, demonstrating that you can meet the challenge of 30 kilometers. However, there are only 2 months left for the event, and you don't have a specific training plan. Besides, you've never ventured into this type of race, and since you've never done it before, you haven't formed a support team to assist you during the race. Despite your confident and positive attitude, you are likely to give up before completing the race or even seriously injure yourself. What Epictetus teaches us is that before setting out to do something, it is essential to carry out a rational assessment, looking at yourself impartially. This exercise is not intended to diminish your self-esteem, but to identify both your weaknesses and strengths. In this way, we avoid neglecting our areas of vulnerability and also do not exaggerate the valuation of our strengths. This is the key to balanced and successful growth in our goals. In the case of the race, a rational approach would have been to recognize that, given your lack of experience in races, it would be necessary to dedicate yourself to specific training, create an action plan, and set aside time to plan your participation. This would significantly increase your chances of victory. Often in life we make important decisions, such as entering into a partnership, starting relationships or friendships, without self-assessing the situation. This often leads to unsatisfactory results, and even worse, due to complete negligence on our part in the face of each event. Remember to look inside and ask yourself what resources you have to face it. Be honest with yourself. Assess your strengths and weaknesses clearly. Do you have what it takes to succeed? If, in your opinion, you are acting correctly, you have nothing to fear. Adopt a firm stance. Act with determination. Do not be cowardly and evasive. The fourth lesson teaches that it is impossible for a person to begin learning what they already think they know. Among all Stoics, Epictetus stands out as a genuine master. He had his school and welcomed students, but one of the sources of frustration for Epictetus was the attitude of some students. Despite claiming to want to learn, many believed they already knew everything. Perhaps you know someone like that, but we all, to some degree, think we already know everything, and we would all learn more if we set aside this attitude. No matter how intelligent or successful we may be, there will always be someone wiser, more talented, and more experienced than us. When we close ourselves in arrogance and vanity, we let learning and growth opportunities pass us by without even realizing it. Think about the last movie you watched, the last book, or this video, and list 2 things you learned from each of them. You will not only realize what you can learn from things in your daily life, but also train your vision to learn from every opportunity. Today, knowledge is at our fingertips, but if we maintain an attitude of already knowing everything, we will end up stranded in our own ignorance. The 5th lesson teaches that your life should be guided by a set of principles. You need clear and rational rules with which to play the game of life. Whatever moral rules you have for yourself, you must respect them as if they were laws, as if you committed sacrilege by violating any of them. Epictetus emphasizes that principles are moral and behavioral standards that serve as a compass to guide your steps and create order in your life. Having well-defined principles helps us maintain consistency in our lives and act in accordance with our core values. They are like foundations that support our personal ethics, behavior, and decision-making. Without order, principles, and routines, your life tends toward chaos and becomes the opposite of virtue. To define your principles, a process of reflection and self-examination is necessary. You can start by identifying which values are truly important to you, such as honesty, compassion, justice, gratitude, among others. Then, put these values into practical rules that will guide your actions in many situations. It is crucial that these principles are clear and specific so that they can be applied consistently. Also, be aware that violating these principles is a serious act that goes against your deepest values. Adopting this mindset is essential to ensure that your principles play a significant role in your life and become a solid compass for your conduct. The sixth lesson is about moderation. Moderation or temperance is one of the four virtues of Stoicism, along with wisdom, courage, and justice. Having temperance is applying moderation to desires. It is harmony and good discipline regarding pleasures, pains, and needs, not allowing ourselves to be enslaved by our desires and not letting some of our needs become our masters. Learning to maintain a healthy distance from our desires does not mean not feeling anything, denying, or trying to eliminate what we feel. In Stoicism, we learn to practice moderation. Imagine you received an unexpected bonus at work. Instead of spending all that money immediately on impulsive purchases or luxuries, you apply temperance. You decide to save some for your emergency fund, pay off some debts if you have outstanding debts, plan a more conscious budget, reserve an amount for your financial education. Instead of spending impulsively and accumulating debts, someone who practices temperance controls their financial expenses, adheres to a budget, and makes conscious purchases. By applying temperance to your financial life, a person can better organize themselves, seek balance between their expenses, and ensure that the use of money is aligned with their long-term values and goals. The seventh lesson teaches that it is impossible to connect happiness to a longing for what we do not have. Happiness has everything it wants, and like the well-fed, it should not be hungry or thirsty. One of the greatest enemies of happiness is conditional happiness. When we say, "I will be happy when," for example, "I will be happy when I have my car," "I will be happy when I get promoted," or "when I lose weight," "when I have extra money," "when I have a relationship." This kind of thinking is called conditional happiness because it is like walking in an endless desert. You can walk for miles and miles and never reach the mirage, not even getting closer. Anticipating a future event through anxiety, passionately imagining something you desire, and longing for a happy situation, as pleasurable as these activities may seem, they destroy your power to be happy. Having desires and ambitions is healthy and natural, but when our happiness is strictly tied to the fulfillment of these desires, we enter a dangerous cycle. When that desire is achieved, often the happiness you feel is fleeting, and soon you are fixating on the next unattainable desire. The constant pursuit of more, the next level, the next achievement, often results in a feeling of dissatisfaction and never being enough. It is important to learn to find joy and satisfaction in the present moment, regardless of external circumstances. This does not mean you cannot pursue goals or fulfill your desires, but remember that true happiness is rooted in acceptance and gratitude for what you have now. Practicing gratitude daily and learning to appreciate the small moments in life can be an effective way to break the cycle of conditional happiness and find joy in the present. Finally, the 8th lesson teaches about resilience training. Resilience is the ability to face adversity and challenges with determination and strength. It is about learning to recover from difficulties and keep progressing no matter what obstacles arise. In your life, you will certainly face difficulties and adversities, large or small. Resilience is the ability to deal with these situations with courage and perseverance. To train resilience, it is essential to develop a mindset that recognizes that difficulties are inevitable in life and that, instead of being impediments, they can be opportunities for growth. It is important to maintain an optimistic perspective and seek solutions to overcome challenges rather than being disheartened by them. In addition, practicing dealing with small adversities daily can help strengthen your resilience over time. When you come across a difficulty, try to identify ways to overcome it and learn from the experience. Do not be discouraged by obstacles, but see them as opportunities to become stronger and wiser. Epictetus said, "Life is a series of challenges. How you deal with them is what matters." By facing challenges with determination and learning from difficulties, you strengthen your resilience and become more capable of facing future challenges with confidence and courage.